So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining today, our latest webinar for the North East Regional Forum, or NERF for short. NERF brings together regional collaboration between the institutes in the North East, including York, Sheffield, Newcastle, Hull, Middlesbrough, Halifax, Bradford and Leeds. And I'm always quite relieved when I don't forget somebody there where I'm going through the list. Thanks for joining us today. We're delighted to welcome our members from across the region. Before I get started with telling you what we've got to look forward to, I just want to mention the Insurance Charities, which is the charity that we as local institutes support. They're the only charity in the UK specifically supporting current and former insurance employees and their families. And hopefully you'll all have seen the various institutes fundraising across the year, whether that's in annual raffles, collections at events and dinners. And I'd encourage everyone to get involved with them and donate if you can. Just a few housekeeping bits for today as well. You'll all receive emails after the event asking for feedback. Please share your thoughts with us and also any ideas that you might have for future topics or things that you want us to cover, and we'll take those into account. The slides for today's event and also a recording will be available on the website that you used to book after the event. So just give it a couple of days, and if you log in there where you booked, you should be able to get those slides and everything. We'll take questions at the end of the event. You can either use the chat function, or given the format that we're in, you can unmute yourself and ask yourself. Whichever you're the most comfortable with, we don't mind. So moving back to today's webinar, our speaker Julia Coakley is head of the MGAA, which is the Managing Agents Association. She'll be helping us to enhance our understanding of the MGA market and how the MGAA fits into this. For any of you who have wanted a better understanding of how managing general agents work in practice, hopefully today will give you that insight. Over to you, Julia.
Thanks very much, Mel. Thank you. Good afternoon. As Mel said, my name is Julia Coakley, and I'm actually head of operations as opposed to head of the MGAA, but I'm sure on occasion our CEO, Mike Keating, wouldn't mind my taking over some of his tasks. Prior to joining the association, I've held roles in broking, underwriting, more recently both the Insurance Fraud Bureau and the Motor Insurers Bureau. So I've spent a good number of years learning about various aspects of our great market, and I'm always proud actually to say that I'm in insurance. I also currently enjoy utilising the CII's Connect platform for mentors and mentees, which introduced me to 3 young professionals, 2 of which actually I've now been mentoring for over 10 months. So I get a great deal out of that. And, you know, from the feedback that I get back from my mentees, it's, you know, of incredible value. And I think the idea of paying it forward when you're more mature, let's say, in the industry is very satisfying. So before we move on, I thought I'd share with you that this is only the 3rd time that I've actually ever presented, aside from hosting other people on webinars. And coincidentally, the first was actually just a few years ago for the Leeds the CII Regional Institute. And I was talking about a crash for cash case for the Insurance Fraud Bureau. And it went down particularly well as the case involved a local junction in Leeds that many delegates knew really well. It's kind of the first time that I'm disclosing this because I hadn't realised at the time the junction was in Leeds. I spoke about the road names, but of course it added a greater level of interest to my presentation. So I did take the credit for tailoring that crash for cash case to Leeds, but it really was predominantly by luck than judgment. The second time I presented was to the South African Underwriting Managers Association. And when they told me they expected around 1,400 delegates, I desperately hoped that they were overplaying it. On the day of the presentation, I crashed my laptop with a couple of minutes to go before I was due to present. And it's really impossible to share the fear that I felt beyond words, but I managed to get up and running without a hitch after that. So here we are now. And the point of my sharing this was really, I appreciate your patience with me today, and I hope I can share something of interest. So my anticipated learning objectives from today's webinar are as follows. At the end of this session, you'll be able to explain the value and purpose of the Managing General Agents Association. You'll be able to describe how a Managing General Agent brings value to the insurer and the broker. You'll be able to outline the operating model of a Managing General Agent. And as Mel said, I will be sharing my presentation for dissemination to delegates post-event, so no need to scribble too furiously. So who we are, the Managing General Agents Association. Whilst there's no formal way of identifying firms operating as a Managing General Agent, it is thought that there are around 300 plus businesses that carry out underwriting activities and owe their fiduciary duty to their insurer or capacity provider. And what I mean by no formal way is, much to the chagrin of most MGAs, the regulator provides approval to MGAs as an intermediary business, along with brokerage firms. Therefore, any register that you might view will include both MGAs and brokers without any defining comment on how they operate. These MGAs write in excess of 10% of the 49 billion of GWP within the insurance markets. 11 years ago, an idea was formed that this highly impactful community should enjoy representation in order to have a voice for lobbying policymakers and regulators, promote the benefits of their role within the value chain, and ensure best practice and professional standards are supported. Therein, the MGAA formed as a not-for-profit organisation. So the MGAA exec team is supported by 4 committees and a board. Both the committees and the board provide extensive experience in the insurance market, made up of senior leaders from MGAs, insurers and legal and regulatory organisations, and work in an advisory and on a voluntary basis. So what do we do as a Managing General Agents Association? Our current work very much remains in line with the original purpose of the inception of the MGAA. In the last 10 months, amongst other things, we've lobbied the FCA on 2 phases of the new Consumer Duty and on their work to improve the appointed representatives regime. In addition, we've submitted a paper on members' views on the Treasury's future regulatory framework review, proposals for reform. The MGAA have also collaborated with market organisations such as ABI, BIBA, LIBA, LMA, IUA to produce a market-wide template in response to the new fair value assessment requirements on product manufacturers. Peter Blanc recently said, during the 125-year history of the Federation of Insurance Institutes, one thing has never changed: the desire for professionals to meet, exchange views and collaborate. Our busy event schedule is aimed at meeting the consistent desire of membership to take opportunities to engage in face-to-face networking to both promote their business, enhance existing relationships and create new partnerships, not only with trading channels, but capacity providers and suppliers of relevant services. Our annual conference, held in September of last year, saw not only a very welcome delegate number in excess of 750, but an incredible buzz about the venue, with many people meeting in a business environment for the first time in almost 2 years. Additional significant events in the MGAA calendar are our Capacity Exchange event, where we bring our market practitioners or capacity provider members together with our MGAA membership, and our Meet the MGA market event, which is scheduled for the 30th of March in Birmingham of this year. If you are a broker on this call and the MGAA Meet the MGA market event is of interest to you, please do either register on our website or drop me an email post-event and I'd be happy to register you on your behalf. This is a free event for both our membership and broker delegates. In late 2020, we finalised the work undertaken with the CII to introduce the Chartered Insurance Underwriting Agents title, an accreditation aimed at supporting professionalism within our sector and continue to support and encourage application for this status to our MGA members. At present, there are 10 MGAs with the accreditation, all of whom are MGAA members. Over the years, we have also adopted and developed an instance of the CII's Assess platform, giving it the aptly named title MGA Assess. The core of which offers both technical catalogues on areas such as underwriting, legal and compliance, claims handling and soft skills, and exam revision support. This is complemented by modules produced by the association specifically addressing the needs of MGAs, all of which aligns with the outcome of the recent CII membership survey findings regarding professional standards. So as each of you will know on this call today, the insurance market is very reliant on relationship building and business relationships, whether with policyholders, underwriters, brokers, service providers, and of course other associations and relevant market institutions. The MGAA has built a strong network of mutually beneficial connections with many of these institutions, allowing for open and honest communication, supporting promotional activities such as events, collaboration on initiatives, timely updates on newsworthy items, and a general willingness to see positive outcomes from business activities. So a few facts about the MGAA and our membership. I'll give you a moment just to look at this slide and just to take in some of the numbers. Over the last year, membership has grown by just over 24%, in no small way attributable to the increase in exposure to the market of the work of the MGAA. As you'll see, over a third of our members utilise MGA Assess as their learning and development platform, and our events and website attract a good number of visitors, perpetuating the interest in our work and becoming a member of the association. So the MGAA future strategy, we work on 3 key pillars with all of our BAU with a view in mind that any of this should attribute to one of our 3 key pillars. So the first is the growth of membership amongst MGAs, our insurer partners and suppliers. Growth demonstrates support in what the organisation has achieved and belief in the direction of travel is appropriate for membership. This then relies heavily on offering a value proposition for our members, that our communication is well targeted and relevant, and that we are alive to issues and opportunities in the MGA community and act in the best interests of our membership. Our second strategic area for the association is looking outward beyond London. Whilst it's true that a large majority of our MGA members are London-based, our reach extends north and south of London and into Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Whilst we certainly still have the impact of the pandemic when it comes to being freely able to schedule face-to-face opportunities, we consistently look for these opportunities and happy to report that our Meet the MGA Market event will be held in Birmingham, and plans are underway to meet with our members and prospective members in the Republic of Ireland in the coming months. Finally, we are passionate as a team to remain firmly sighted on professional standards and education. We have an important part to play in public confidence in the insurance market, and the knowledge and professionalism of MGAs plays into this. Whilst quite often the end consumer will not necessarily understand the role the MGA is playing in the value chain, advice, efficiencies, fair value and claim handling will ultimately play out as a perception the policyholder has of insurance. With this in mind, we have introduced a technical underwriting forum as a regular feature on our events calendar, along with a refreshed technical claims forum. These complement our Lloyd's Market Forum and Compliance Forum, with a personal lines forum in the making currently, all with the intention of supporting ongoing professional development. So we also have our Next Gen group. The Next Gen group is newly refreshed and is a subgroup of our Membership and Benefits Committee and is led by Helen Ferris, Head of Communications and Digital Strategy, and chaired by Alexia Eliades, Vice President, P&C Business Management at Swiss Re. The Next Gen group is made up of young and dynamic professionals working to identify innovation and, more importantly, encourage and develop entry into the insurance market by other young professionals. So the Next Gen group objectives have been clearly defined and agreed, and these are to represent young professionals within the MGA sector in the UK, to promote training and education opportunities to members and to provide a forum for topical comment, to provide networking opportunities between members through the organisation of educational and social events, to contribute to MGAA initiatives and market projects to make a difference to the insurance market. Next Gen to date, as you can see, the work has started with some quick wins. However, they have also been diligently working on their future strategy. To date, they've delivered a presentation at the MGAA 2021 annual conference, A Career During the Pandemic, produced the MGAA's 2022 diversity and inclusion policy, launched a Next Gen dedicated LinkedIn showcase page, and delivered a Next Gen update at the MGAA's 2022 AGM. A recent discussion regarding future objectives for the Next Gen produced an events programme of educational and social events, both virtual and face-to-face, a mentoring scheme, education, which is raising awareness of insurance opportunities in schools and colleges, and a session at our annual conference in 2022. The Next Gen's future strategy is fully underpinned by the desire to raise awareness of the insurance market as a fulfilling, interesting and fun career path, which opens a multitude of avenues to be explored. In addition, their focus will be on corporate and social responsibility, economic and social governance, climate change matters, and diversity and inclusion, all of which will be conducted whilst carrying out their very demanding day jobs. So why a managing general agent? A managing general agent is an insurance agency holding a delegated authority with a fiduciary duty to its capacity provider, generally an insurer or syndicate that provides underwriting services. These services include rating of risk, application of terms, binding cover, document issuance, and in some cases claims handling. So you can see the similarity of the tasks that MGAs carry out to insurers or capacity providers. For the insurers, this opens up access to niche and specialist markets, regional distribution channels, entry into areas of risk that their minimum premiums may otherwise make prohibitive, and lessens the burden of resourcing and administrative duties for these books of business on the insurers. Many MGAs are incepted by entrepreneurial endeavours. This means that often these businesses are smaller firms that can adapt quickly with less constraints on decision makers. They can be innovative in their approach to risk, efficiencies, resourcing, and general business activities. MGAs, like most businesses, lean on technology, but again, by the nature of their size, can develop systems more swiftly and with less obstacles than a larger concern, such as a multi-lines insurer. The adaptability of MGAs was no better demonstrated than during the pandemic, when many firms had already adopted home working strategies, and where this wasn't prevalent, were quick to equip staff to be up and running in a very swift manner. Indeed, a number of criticisms levelled at insurers by brokers was the lack of availability by underwriters during at least the very early stages of lockdown. MGAs seem to fare better in this area, with their underwriters remaining accessible and available for discussions on risk appetite, quote negotiations and binding. It is during this period particularly that many MGAs didn't survive, they thrived. I've already touched upon a number of benefits to brokers for placing their risks with an MGA, but further MGAs offer a broader spectrum of cover, which the insurer of their client's main program of cover may not offer. It's not unknown for a client to require cover for an obscure event, driving challenge, unusual artifact or business line. As a broker, the inability to provide a solution to this requirement could place the entire program of cover in jeopardy. After all, if another broker successfully places said obscure risk, the client will almost certainly be open to an approach by that broker to poach the remainder of the insurance program at renewal. Therefore, a specialist underwriter and an MGA can be an invaluable resource to a broker. It allows the broker to take advice on the anomalies of the risk, thus being able to talk knowledgeably to the client and ultimately agreeing placement, reducing the vulnerability of losing the client. Brokers are also very likely to receive a favourable response from an MGA when looking at schemes of a specialist nature. For all the reasons an insurer would contract with an MGA, it makes the MGA a perfect vehicle to underwrite a scheme that an insurer deems likely to be profitable but does not have the in-house expertise or resource to manage. So the power of the capacity provider, I hope what I've already alluded to is the operation of an MGA relies on the funding of effectively claims payments. A common thread of conversation with the MGA community currently is the challenge surrounding securing and maintaining capacity or funding from insurers, syndicates or investment companies. When the market is soft, capacity is more accessible, with providers more willing to take lower profits on MGA risks or schemes. More competition amongst capacity providers is created to secure business from MGAs. They offer less onerous binder terms and generally encourage the capacity provider to be less risk averse. During a hard market, such as it is today, capacity providers become more risk averse and focus their attention on ensuring their own product suite is performing at maximum potential and less on external opportunities. This does make it incredibly difficult for MGAs to innovate and in many cases start up. But even more worrying, have the confidence that their capacity provider will renew their binders or indeed allow the MGA to find another capacity provider in the eventuality that their existing provider does not renew their contract. A process of due diligence to agree a binding authority contract can take as long as 6 months in some instances. Capacity application and presentations must be robust and include, first and foremost, the nature of the unique selling point the MGA is bringing to the table. It's all very well demonstrating the growth and profitability of the proposal, and of course is essential, but what is the MGA providing that capacity provider can't do themselves? Presentation should include such hygiene factors as organisational governance, risk management, a strong conduct record, and plans for claims handling and fraud controls. Becoming more and more essential is data management, data enrichment and strong analytics, giving the ability to provide truly granular management information to aid risk selection and reserving and scrutinise performance of product lines. It is thought that in 5 to 7 years' time, we could all have access to the same data. So how you maximise the story it is telling you is paramount to creating a competitive edge. Not as essential as maybe it could or should be, but certainly there will be a growing focus on the CSR or ESG policies of the business, along with climate change and D&I ethos. Lloyd's has long been a strong partner for delegated authorities, where for a broker with a binding authority among its other insurer-led products or a managing general agent, the Lloyds DA programme is led and sponsored by Lloyds Delegated Authority experts who are also accountable for development of the Lloyds DA Code of Practice, bylaws and minimum standards. These are being developed alongside the DA programme to ensure ways of working complement system improvements and Lloyds frameworks. So the claims model. Sue McCall, Chair of the Society of Claims Professionals, recently highlighted the need to build a diverse, inclusive, technically and operationally resilient claims function in order to attract and retain talent, which in turn will increase public trust in our profession. I think this is entirely applicable to every aspect of function within the insurance market and not restricted to claims or MGAs. However, it does open up nicely to the question of how are claims managed within the world of MGAs. So there are a number of permutations for how claims management is handled within an MGA model. Whilst MGAs will have contracted with their capacity provider on the limits of their binding authority, some may further be granted claims authority. This will give the MGA within the parameters of the contract a limit up to which they may settle a claim before it must be referred to the capacity provider. If this route is taken, clearly the claims function must operate in almost an identical way that an insurer will handle claims. Certainly with the requirements of claims handlers and also with third-party services, which will include loss adjusters, valuers, repair and restoration services and fraud detection, among other things. As with insurers, an MGA may still outsource some or all of the process to a third-party administrator, whether just the first notification of loss, or FNOL, or more extensive handling. Alternatively, many MGAs do not hold claims authority, but will still outsource to a TPA, with the TPA ultimately engaging directly with the insurer during some or all of the claim journey. Finally, the MGAs may also choose simply to agree that all claims will feed directly into the insurer's FNOL and claims handling team, with the MGA having limited contact during the claim journey. Whichever route the MGA takes, there is an indisputable need for a robust understanding of what the customer claims journey looks like, how fraud indicators are set and fraud concerns are managed, how swiftly claims are mitigated or settled, and an ongoing view of how these claims are impacting the performance of the business line. Whilst rates, of course, impact profitability, if an MGA loses sight of the claims process and MI, they will quickly find themselves with a poorly performing business and a capacity provider at best micromanaging the relationship, at worst with no appetite to renew the binding authority contract. Will Morris, Director of Underwriting Delegated Authority UK at HDI Global, referenced a good MGA treating every pound of capacity as if it were their own, a good ethos to work by in anyone's book. So immediate challenges to MGA success. So what currently impacts an MGA success? Certainly the trends, albeit to varying degrees. As previously discussed, an MGA must have a clear understanding of its own unique selling point and what it can bring to its capacity provider that the provider can't deliver themselves, and that another MGA cannot do as well. At the MGAA conference in September 2021, Sam White, Chief Executive Officer at Stella Insurance, urged MGAs to really think about what it is that they specialise in or what their distribution channels are truly unique to them. She also advised MGAs not to spread themselves too thinly across product lines, stating, if there is an area you excel at, don't be afraid to maximise this and this alone. Over the last year, the FCA has ramped up its thematic reviews, and whilst ultimately there is much good that can come of the changes in regulation and compliance matters, specifically to increase the public confidence in the insurance market, the resourcing and cost implications can be immensely impactful, particularly on smaller MGAs. Whilst improvements in data analytics is, as I hope I've demonstrated, essential, this can come with additional challenges. Aside from the obvious cost implications of upgrading existing tech platforms and capabilities, this does open up potential vulnerabilities of cyber attacks, which could be devastating to any business, not least reputationally. A common question asked of tech platform companies is whether a product is scalable. This, of course, is a question any MGA will ask itself of its own business too. Growth must be achieved in profitability and not just size of premium. Again, cost implications prevail, but in addition, increasing resourcing of expertise is something that cannot be overlooked. As was the case resulting from the 9/11 atrocities, so is the fallout from the pandemic when it comes to policy wordings. Capacity providers will apply a laser-focused review of wordings in their endeavours to eliminate or at least mitigate the challenges experienced by the lack of clarity surrounding cover for business interruption and the ensuing court cases. It's fair to say that a growing number of insurtech MGAs are using AI and machine learning and are bypassing the broker distribution channels to sell direct to the consumer. However, at this time, the majority of MGAs do use this route for trading. The ever-increasing consolidation by mergers and acquisitions certainly adds an element of concern within the MGA market, as they can see once long-standing broker relationships impacted by mergers and acquisitions activity, resulting in books of business moving across to existing panel insurers of the acquiring business. It could be argued that people challenges are one of the fastest moving areas for MGAs. Firms are having to look more closely at their employee value proposition, made up of compensation, work-life balance, stability, location and respect, and consider far more carefully how flexible they are in areas such as location and hours of working in particular. Whilst the shift to ensure the workplace is diverse and inclusive, the forward-thinking MGA will be considering how to make its EVP attractive to entry-level talent to secure succession planning and maximise the benefits that young professionals can bring to their business. Finally, whilst capacity providers are not showing any signs of falling out of love with MGAs, there is no doubt that the difficulty in attaining capacity provision will continue for some considerable time. As insurance professionals know, the underwriting or insurance cycle can last for a number of years, going from boom to bust, back to boom again. So during my presentation, I hope that I have demonstrated or at least enabled you to explain the value and the purpose of the Managing General Agents Association, describe how Managing General Agents bring value to the insurer and broker and value chain, and I've outlined the operating model of a Managing General Agent. So I'm now happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thanks, Julia. So thanks a lot for that. I think that was a great overview on exactly what's involved both in the MGAA itself and also what's involved with managing general agents and what the benefit of them is as well. So hopefully that was of real help to our audience. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask Julia? Feel free, given the format that we're in, to unmute yourselves and ask directly, or if you're not feeling brave enough for that, you can put them in the chat and we'll field them that way. So please send anything over that you're interested in finding out.
Just to, while everyone's thinking about whether they do have a question, we do have a fairly comprehensive website, but I do appreciate that, you know, that can't cover all questions. So if there aren't any questions now, I have included my contact details on the slide deck. So any questions post-event, I'm more than happy to ask. And as I say, or as you say, people aren't always comfortable enough to put a question forward, but I'm sure if you pose a question in the chat, it will remain anonymous if you wish. But as Mel said, if you wanted to unmute yourself and ask a question, I'm more than happy to try and answer.
Okay, we'll give people a couple of minutes just to have a think about that. When was the conference that you were talking about, Julia? When did you say? I didn't quite catch the date.
That's okay. So we've got our annual conference this year on June the 29th in London. So the conference is open to all of our delegates, but in particular our exhibitors are our supply membership. I always think our supply membership is a great point to start for any MGA looking for services, because our supply memberships, by virtue of the fact that they've joined the association, are demonstrating they either already work for MGAs or with MGAs, so they know the operating model and the specifics of how an MGA works, or they're expressing an interest in wanting to work within the MGA community. So, as I say, for existing MGAs, if they want to know where to start for a supplier, our supply membership directory is always a good place to start. Our supply membership covers services such as claims professionals, claims management companies, legal, regulatory compliance, some HR companies, certainly plenty of tech platforms, tech providers, loss adjusters. So it's quite a suite of service providers, and I'm sure there's some there that I might have missed.
Yeah, that sounds quite comprehensive. I'm not sure what else anyone would want. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I've got no doubt that there are some companies that, we could still well do with into our, as I say, suite of suppliers. But yeah, we've yet to hear from them. So I'm sure there's some more that, we could cover off in that respect.
I think nobody's quite being brave enough to ask any questions.
Can I be brave, Mel?
Of course you can be brave, Stephen. What do you want to ask?
Brave or outspoken?
Oh, we like that. We like that.
You touched on the issue of policy wordings, and clearly with the FCA case for business interruption and what's been said about other areas of cover, is the MGAA doing work with regulators and others around policy wordings, whether it's guidance on improving what's there or out and out, don't do it this way? Are you fairly active as an organisation in that, or is that being left to the discretion of the members?
The simple answer to that actually is no. We don't get involved with the creation of policy wordings. I think the MGAA, and I joined the MGAA last January, so in the 14 months that I've been with the MGAA, one of the common questions, I suppose, or maybe not common questions, but the common work that the MGA does is actually responds to ad hoc questions. So whilst we're not working on policy wordings, because as you say, they are very, they're very specific to each member business or insurer or MGA. And just going back to the point that it's one of the benefits of an MGA, they've been very agile in the way they've been able to amend and work on policy wordings to be adaptable. So no, we don't work on policy wordings, but what the MGAA are very good at is, because of the breadth of our membership, if you have, or if a member has a question, whether it's relating to a specific area of policy wording, a matter, a legal matter, a compliance matter, we're very resourceful in looking for an answer to that question. So whilst, as I say, we don't work on policy wordings per se, if a member does need some advice or a secondary opinion, on the whole, with the breadth of our membership base, we can tend to generally secure a response for that particular member.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Any questions from anyone else before we sort of wrap up? As Julia mentioned, if you do think of anything sort of 10 minutes after we've finished and closed off, just go and find that slide deck, which we'll be posting on the website in the next couple of days, and that will have all of Julia's details there, and she'll be more than happy to answer any of the questions that you think of after the fact, or if you've got any queries about the MGAA that you want to raise afterwards. Thank you again, Julia. That's been great.
Thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your members. It's been really interesting. It was a great opportunity for me to gather a presentation together to really try and summarise the work of our organisation and actually what an MGA is. And just going back to events again, you mentioned about the date of the event. I think in hindsight, you might have meant our Meet the MGA market event, which is on the 30th of March. So if there are any brokers on our call today that would like to attend the Meet the MGA market, that is a free event for brokers. It's in the ICC in Birmingham on the 30th of March, and registration can be carried out on our website. But again, feel free, if you are a broker, to drop me an email if you'd like me to register on your behalf.
Thanks, Julia. Okay, that's fine. So thanks everyone and good afternoon.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.